Hello, my name is John Bryson, and I'm the author, along with Barbara Crosby and Laura Bloomberg, of Public Value Governance, Moving Beyond Traditional Public Administration and the New Public Management. This is the introductory essay to the PAR Symposium on Public Value. Creating public value and the topic of public values more generally are really hot topics for both public administration practitioners and scholars these days. Why is that? We believe the answer has to do with the continuing evolution of public administration thinking and practice. Just as traditional public administration was supplanted as the dominant view in the 1980s and 1990s by the new public management, we believe that a new movement is underway that is likely to eclipse it. The new approach does not have an agreed name, but many authors point to the need for a new approach and to aspects of its emergence in theory and practice. Whatever the new name ends up being, public value and governance will be important parts of it. Those two words capture much of what's important about the new governing environment in which many kinds of organizations beyond governments and citizens have a key role to play. The growing interest in the new approach is in part due to at least four things. One is the importance, urgency, scope, and scale of public problems facing the world. The second is a pragmatic recognition that governments alone cannot effectively address many of these problems by themselves. Third is the emergence of network governance and cross-sector collaboration as important ways of accomplishing public purposes. And fourth is a concern that public values have been lost as a result of a powerful anti-government rhetoric and a host of market-based and performance-based reforms. The new approach highlights four important aspects of the movement that together represent a response to current challenges and shortcomings. These include an emphasis on public value and public values, a recognition that government has an important role to play as a guarantor of public values, the importance of public management very broadly conceived and of service to and for the public, and a heightened emphasis on citizenship and democratic and collaborative governance. These concerns, of course, are not new to public administration, but their combination in the emerging approach is. The essay highlights some of the key value-related issues in the new approach. We started, however, by clarifying what we see as the contours of the emerging approach to addressing issues of public value and governance. After doing so, we clarify what is meant by some of the key terms in the public value literature, namely public value, public values, and the public sphere. We talk about how they're operationalized. We summarize important challenges to the concepts. We attend to how these concepts relate to other concepts like public good, public interest, commonwealth, and so on. And then we follow that with a discussion about how these concepts have been used, public value and public values have been used in practice. Finally, we present conclusions and agenda for research and action to be pursued if the new approach is to fulfill its promise. In terms of conclusions, we note first simply that the public value literature is very popular and growing. The second focuses on the emergence of this new approach. And the two big deals about this approach. The first is that public purposes, the first is simply attention to the public purposes that organizations in all sectors, intra and cross-sector collaborations, public leadership broadly defined, and governance do and should serve. And second is how public managers and leaders do and should accomplish these purposes. These are important normative and research-based, research-related questions that need to be pursued in the new context. Among the implications for theory and practice, we highlight several. The first is the need for performance measurement and management regimes to focus on more than just efficiency and effectiveness. They also need to attend to what David Rosenblum calls non-mission-based values, such as equity, due process, freedom of information, citizenship development, and so on. We think practitioners and scholars should follow Australia's lead, for example, and draw attention to the expected and actual public value created by policies, programs, projects, and other efforts. The importance of this is partly due to what Larry Jacobs in the Symposium calls the U.S. citizenry's pragmatically liberal views. So the U.S. public is fairly conservative in some ways around believing in limited government and liberty, for example. But the American public also is pretty clear about being willing to support public initiatives and programs that generate public value at reasonable costs, like the GI Bill, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and so on. So clarifying public values that are expected or created is important. Given the complex network and collaborative arrangements practitioners now often find themselves in, it's really important to cultivate what Mark Moore calls a restless, a value-seeking imagination in a democratic context. And public affairs scholars and educators should help practitioners do that. And work should also continue on linking managerial behavior, attempting to create public value with institutions and processes and policy level and other important public values related to democratic and collaborative governance. So, in sum, we believe there is a new approach to public administration emerging, and we think that continued work is needed in order for this new approach to fulfill its promise of helping all of us create more of what the public values and more of what is also good for the public. Thank you very much.